All right, rubber meets the road. These two teams, I think both of these teams have playoff aspirations, right? And I think the NFC West is in such a strange spot that the Cardinals it feels like you're only sending one team, and the rest of them are getting, are falling behind the Vikings, the Packers, the Commanders, and all these other kind of also rans in their division. So I feel like this is really, really key for how things are going to shake out in January. What is the one thing the Cardinals cannot afford to do?
One?
The most important, if they do this, it's over, the biggest.
They cannot repeat the offensive line performance from last week.
Okay.
I think that's it. It has been the calling card for this team, allowing Kyler Murray to go through his progressions, allowing Kyler Murray to be special. If Kyler Murray doesn't have the ability to be special because he doesn't have the time to do so, that's a game changer. I don't care about how well the defense plays. The Cardinals can't move the ball down the field. None of this is going to work. So the offensive line is wildly underrated. They've overproduced above expectation, and they just laid an egg last week. Can't happen. Can't happen again.
I think similar thing for the Vikings. It's penalties and turnovers, and that's been kind of the case for a couple years now. They've had the turnover bug. Aaron Jones never fumbles, got the fumble bug now that he's here, right? He's fumbled a couple of times in the last couple of weeks. He fumbled on the goal line twice this year. And he's getting frustrated with it, like you can tell. So it's obviously the Sam Darnold turnover thing. So it's turnovers, and they've also had a lot of pre-snap issues. I think that they adjusted how they do their sideline operation, and I think that actually helped. But they had a lot of, delay of games, false starts, play clock issues, illegal formations and illegal motions and stuff. Just like the operation was a little bit too complicated, and Sam Darnold needed a couple weeks to figure out how to run it. So it's those kind of sloppy things. I don't know. It feels to me like this game comes down to that who's going to outmuscle who in the secondary when the Vikings have the ball. And then it's just that explosiveness. There's going to be some 40-yard ridiculous play, some ridiculous swing that's going to be the thing that breaks this game. I think you're going to have them both ways. That's how every Vikings game has gone. But that's where I feel this game is going to exist. But where do you think this thing comes down to?
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, the interesting history, I think, the Minnesota went up 21-0 at State Farm Stadium and ended up losing that game, ended up being down at halftime with the Greg Joseph missed kick, a walk-off.
Oh, the 2021 game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, the last few years, man.
It's just been
years off my life.
It's wild. Yeah, really. Yeah. No, so for the Cardinals, one thing you mentioned about turnovers, the Cardinals defense on paper is one of the least talented fronts in football. I mean, you've got guys like Kazir White and Mac Wilson, two subsequent season signings that have been fantastic in the middle of the field. They're going to run a lot of dime, but the thing is, the big thing that's really changed the landscape of this defense the last couple of weeks, the exotic blitz packages where you don't know who's coming. Buda Baker is going to live around the line of scrimmage. Mm-hmm. He's the new age version of Tyrann Mathieu, who does things better at times than Honey Badger does and has done. He's different.
How about Harrison Smith, huh? We got to start making him a household name. The Hall of Fame case is coming.
Cool. He's not a Cardinal, so I don't really talk about him much. But it's don't be surprised if Sam Darnold is on the ground with Mac Wilson and Buda Baker on top of him, or Max Melton and Garrett Williams, trying to rip the ball from him. The opportunistic nature of this defense is starting to become, but isn't quite terrifying yet. It's on the precipice. So they have the tendencies to be able to do that already. It's just a matter of filtering out the baby fat, as it were. Because the front is terrible. The interior defensive line isn't good. You may see rookie Darius Robinson, his first action, 27th overall pick out of Missouri on Sunday, which could add a boost. But the blitz pressure the Cardinals get very rarely is from the usual suspects that you'd see blitz pressure coming from. So it's going to be fascinating to see what the mad scientist Nick Rallis does on Sunday. But that's another big thing for me.
It's probably by design, right?
No, it has to be. No, yeah. It's
like, why would you send the guy everybody expects to come?
Well, no, you don't. If you have a good player there, you send the guy. But they've had to adapt and evolve and survive, and they figured out something pretty special there.
Yeah, and look, there's good players and then there's good blitzers too. Sometimes you can be a specialist. especially from the secondary, like a safety with any pass rush chops or a safety that sucks in coverage. Yeah, send that guy. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in this one. I'm excited for this matchup because I am very unfamiliar with the Cardinals. I'm a little more familiar now. Now I got at least the broad strokes we can get in a half an hour, but the NFC West is just fascinating to me too. And this is going to be possibly decisive, especially as common games come into play and everything is so tight. Looks like it's going to come down to tiebreakers and all of that. Do you have any other like senses for what this comes down to? If you want to do a score prediction, now would be the time.
Yeah, I don't really score prediction. It's like the thing for the Cardinals is it's no longer a barometer check that if it's a close game and you lose, there's no impact. That's what the early season was. This could legitimately be, if the Cardinals win this game, a first round playoff matchup. Because
absolutely, yes.
And that's the wildest part about this. If the Cardinals can run a string, win this week, beat Seattle next week, like we're looking at the Cardinals potentially getting that 2 seed, depending on what happens with Philly if they lose a couple of games. Because it's not if
they're 9-2. They won 7 straight. That they might not fall away.
they may not, but it has been not an if, it's been a when for Philly. And I know that's a far outlier. We've got a lot of football to play, and chances are that won't happen. But if the Cardinals win on Sunday, Luke, just like the NFL does, there's no reason why the Cardinals win this game. That's all the reason why the Cardinals win by a field goal and the rest of the NFL is off its head. It's just one of those. I don't think they'll win. I think it's going to be tight, and it's going to come down to penalties and turnovers, as you mentioned.
It always comes down to that stuff. So Vikings are 3.5-point favorites at home. That tells me, honestly, that like FanDuel thinks that these teams on a neutral field aren't that far apart. And I don't think that they're wrong about that. Yeah. This could have, Vikings very favored to be the 5 seed. So whoever wins that NFC West, maybe it's the NFC South winner, whoever that ends up being, probably Falcons. But whoever's a 4 seed, like if the Cardinals are in the playoffs, the 4 seed feels like the most likely place for them to be there. So yeah, you're right. This could absolutely be a playoff preview.